Hey, loves. All right, we are on episode 3 of the deep dive. So, the Melanin Deep Dive is what we're talking about today. Thank you again for joining me. We're going to go ahead and get right into it. So, today we're going to talk to you about something that sits right at the intersection of neuroscience, endocrinology, and a conversation that's been happening in our community for a long time about melanin and consciousness. So, melanin and consciousness. Okay. I am approaching this from documented science, specifically from what is known about neuromelanin, the pineal gland, and the melatonin pathway, because the science alone is amazing and it has very direct practical implications for sleep, hormonal health, and why so many women in perimenopause find that their sleep is the first thing to go and the hardest thing to get back. The pineal gland is a small endocrine gland. And endocrine just means it produces hormones. So we talked about endocrine disruptions, chemicals that are on a lot of chemicals. One is a lot of, what is that, sunblock, endocrine disrupting chemicals are in that stuff, which is why we say don't use them. Get to the root, we fix the root, and then everything else will fall into place. Okay? And the more education you have, the less fear you have because you're educated. Nothing to fear, right? So, the pineal gland is located deep in the center of the brain, and in adults, it is roughly the size of a grain of rice. That is tiny. And for its size, it receives the second highest blood flow per gram of tissue in the entire body, second only to the kidneys. Now that's amazing. That level of blood supply tells you how metabolically active this tiny structure really is. And the pineal gland contains two important things. It contains pinealocytes, the cells that produce melatonin, and neuromelanin. The neuromelanin in the pineal gland accumulates over time as a byproduct of the melatonin synthesis process. Its exact role is still being investigated, but its presence in a light sensing and sleep regulating gland is not incidental. So, what that means in plain terms is that the pineal gland is your body's sleep clock. It reads light in your environment and decides when to produce melanin, the hormone that tells your body that it's time to rest. Most people know melatonin from the supplement aisle. Hold on. Let me go ahead and turn on the fan. So, from the supplement aisle and from what you've seen maybe online, is what most people know about melatonin, the little pill that helps you go to sleep. So, what you don't know is that your body produces it naturally, and that production is directly connected to your melanin system. When this clock is disrupted by artificial light, by hormonal changes, or by environmental factors, your sleep suffers in ways that a melatonin supplement cannot address alone. All right? So it is really important to turn off those lights at night. Turn them off, let your body rest. Melatonin is synthesized in your pineal gland. Little bitty, tiny, the size of a piece of rice, of a grain of rice. Okay? It is synthesized in the pineal gland from serotonin, which comes from tryptophan, which is also a type of amino acid. The signal that triggers melatonin production is darkness, specifically the absence of light, detected by photoreceptors in the retina in the back of your eye that communicate directly to the pineal gland through the suprachiasmatic nucleus, which is your master circadian clock. Circadian just means your 24-hour biological rhythm that your body follows, okay? Here's where melanin enters the conversation specifically. The melanin in the retina plays a role and protecting the photoreceptors from oxidative stress and damage, and in regulating how light signals are filtered and transmitted. Higher melanin concentrations in the retina may affect how the circadian system receives and responds to light and dark hues. There's documented research showing that Black populations show different circadian patterns, different melatonin timing, and different sleep architecture than white populations. The biological basis for those differences is the conversation that the scientific and research communities are still talking about and working through. So, some clear differences, right? And how it's not just the pigment. We talked about that in episode 1. So the melanin in your body is an entire system that is communicating with the rest of the body, which is why I often say that we have to look at the body as a whole, and figuring out where that breakdown is happening. Sometimes it can take time, but if we are using our skin signals, and we're going to do body signals next, but when we're looking at the signals that is coming from our body, we can usually figure out, when we have enough education and knowledge, what is going on in our bodies and how to fix it from the root. Okay? So in plain terms, the very simple version, your body runs on a 24-hour internal clock. The light that tells that clock is daytime. Darkness tells it to start producing melanin so you can sleep. Melatonin, so that you can sleep. The melanin in the back of your eye is a part of how your body reads those light signals. And because your eyes carry more melanin than lighter eyes, the way we produce and respond to light, including artificial light at night, may be different in ways that affect our sleep quality. This is one reason why turning off your screens and getting into genuine darkness matters more than people realize, especially for melanated bodies. The next thing that we're going to talk about is pineal calcification. It's a real thing. Some of you may have heard of it, some of you may not have, but it's real. Pineal calcification is something that actually shows up on brain imaging routinely in adults, and the rates increase with age. So it's the older you get, the more likely it is that you will show some calcification in your pineal gland, which is why you'll hear about people talking about decalcifying your pineal gland. We need to decalcify it, because when it's calcified, it can't produce. And we're going to get into some of that, and then I'll have and in plain text or plain language to help you understand what that means. I hope you have your notepads. Calcification means mineral deposits. That's what that means. Specifically, hydroxyapatite. So you all have heard hydroxyapatite lately. Have you heard that? I've heard it a lot on TikTok, a lot on Facebook and Instagram, talking about that in a toothpaste. So it belongs somewhere. You want to have it to help build up your teeth, because it is the same mineral that makes up bone, and bone forms in the tissue. Okay? Calcification is associated with reduced melatonin output. So if you have too much calcification on your pineal gland, it slows the output of melatonin, and it's been linked to disrupted sleep and altered circadian rhythm. The factors that accelerate calcification include chronic fluoride exposure. That's why you want to use a dentist that does not believe in filling you up with these fluoride treatments, you or your children. It is disrupting the melanin production and the melatonin production. And we'll go deeper into that, right? What does this have to do with skin? Stay tuned. Stay tuned. So let me see. Where was I? Calcification, fluoride. We were talking about fluoride. It also electromagnetic frequency exposure, poor sleep hygiene, and nutritional deficiencies, particularly in magnesium and antioxidant nutrients. These are not rare exposures. They are part of the daily environmental load many communities, especially ours, carry disproportionately. The relationship between fluoride and pineal calcification was documented in peer-reviewed research by Jennifer Luke and subsequently replicated. This is all documented in literature. What is not in the mainstream conversation is the community-specific implications of that research. So there are some real consequences that our community suffers when we are given fluoride treatments, when fluoride is placed in our water, when we are not sleeping regularly and turning off the light, and because we talked about environmental exposures, right? That's part of the environmental exposure, a big part of it. So think of calcium like mineral buildup in a pipe. Over time, when those deposits form, the pineal gland tissue, in the pineal gland tissue, and the more calcified it becomes, the less the melatonin it can produce and efficiently. For our community, which carries a higher environmental toxin burden, higher chronic stress, and often less access to clean water, it's not an abstract concern. These are real factors that affect real sleep. The good news is that magnesium, antioxidant rich foods, and genuine darkness at night are practical steps to help support your pineal health. And we'll get to those at the close of this episode. So, sleep disruption for us in menopause and perimenopause, let's talk about it because it's a thing. For women in perimenopause and menopause, the sleep disruption is coming from multiple directions all at once. It's just ta 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 coming from everywhere. Estrogen and progesterone both have roles in sleep architecture. And when I say sleep architecture, what I'm saying is architecture is the build. So we have this whole system that is built. When something is broken or there's a break in the line, I'll say it's going to disrupt that entire system, right? So progesterone has GABAergic effects, GABA, capital GABA, ergic effects, meaning that it acts on the same receptors that anti-anxiety medications target to produce calm and sleep. It acts on those same receptors that anti-anxiety medications target to produce calm and sleep. The same. The same. Progesterone. Okay? I'm going to repeat that. Progesterone. It has the GABAergic effects. It's the same that the anti-anxiety medications target for calm and sleep. When progesterone is decreased in perimenopause, the sedating properties are decreasing as well. Okay? That effect to help you fall asleep, it decreases in perimenopause. Estrogen modulates serotonin, and serotonin is the precursor to melatonin. Serotonin comes before your melatonin. So as estrogen starts to decline, it's estrogen, serotonin availability starts to change as well, and the synthesis or the production of melatonin is also affected. Okay? These are all documented facts. All documented. It's a documented hormonal pathway from ovarian function to pineal output. So imagine, right, for those of us who have had hysterectomies, and it's popular in our community. They are quick to want to take your womb, and we are like, yay, no more periods, no more cycles, I don't have to deal with it. And then a lot of us will say, well, I wasn't really that excited, but I am excited because I was experiencing a lot of tissue damage, or why is it escaping my brain? Because I had them where you're having to have these tissues removed because you're bleeding profusely. Why is this not coming to my brain, y'all? But you know what I'm talking about. I'll come back to it. My brain it'll come back to it. But having this stuff removed, well, we're not getting to the root of the issue, because those growths that are happening in our womb, we can, there's other ways, there's something else feeding that. So it's too much hormones. It could be also parasites that we're dealing with. It can be a number of things, but when we are just taking out our wombs, and we're talking about, and we're finding out that there's a hormonal pathway from our ovarian function to the pineal output. It should cause you to want to ask some questions. Okay? At least ask some questions. It seems like the easy way out, but not so, not always. The woman in perimenopause who cannot sleep, she's not imagining things. Her melatonin production has changed. It has been directly impacted. So, in plain terms, what it means for you is that estrogen helps your body to make serotonin. Serotonin is what your body converts into melatonin. So, serotonin to melatonin. When the estrogen declines, your melatonin production chain is directly interrupted. Progesterone is your natural calm down hormone. When it drops in perimenopause, that calming effect goes with it, which is a part of why the wired, restless feeling at night becomes so common. So I talked about that wired, restless feeling. So you're wired over here, but you're restless. You cannot seem to get yourself to a point to where you are in a mode of calming down. So we talk about that, and the connection to the nervous system, right? So I will link that. I need to make myself a note and link that to this video here so that we'll have it. So if you haven't looked at that, look at that video. It's really great information. And like I said, on this channel, we're talking about information. Let me make sure linked vid. Okay. Wired restless. Yeah, there's a link. Okay, thank y'all for the pause. I'm sorry for the pause. So you're not feeling at sleep. Your hormonal architecture has shifted. And we talked about what architecture is when it's as it relates to what our conversation today. And that shift has a direct documented pathway through your melanin system. This is what this series is here to explain. This entire series. And again, we have 10 parts to this series. It may go to 12. We'll see where we are. So there are things that support your pineal health and melatonin production. Genuine darkness at night. Turn off those TVs, turn off the phones, turn off your light, not ambient light most of us sleep in. Magnesium, involved in over 300 enzymatic reactions and consistently depleted by chronic stress. Tryptophan-rich foods that feed the serotonin to the melatonin pathway. And the nervine herbs we covered in month 1, which are passion flowers, skullcap, and blue lotus. These support the nervous system environment in which good sleep actually becomes possible. So episode 4 is going to move into the neurotransmitter conversation, your dopamine, serotonin, and melanin connection that most people in the mental health world are still not talking about. So subscribe so that you are here for it. Thank you again for joining me. And remember, it looks good to feel good. So love you. Until next time, I'm Chantel. Take care.